Before we moved here, we were in California. We'd both grown up in Texas and always wanted to head back to the South at some point. When we were looking for colleges for our son, he was very interested in the music business and is in the music business today in Nashville. But he found Belmont, and that's what led us to this area. It just feels like home, feels like where we grew up. It feels like where we want to end up, so we love it here.
After we left Texas and finished our schooling at Baylor, we went to California. I started working at Apple and worked there for 12 years and then did 6 other technology startups. Nancy was an entrepreneur and an author and raised our kids and very accomplished at a lot of different events. And so we had a nice family and we loved California. And as Nancy mentioned, we wanted to move more to the South. And every time we visited our son at Belmont, we felt like this was home. The more we looked into it and the more we came and visited, we thought that this would be the place for us in our next stop. And so much so that we told him, we don't know if you're going to end up here, but we're going to end up here. Ultimately, he ended up here too, so that's good.
And ultimately, our daughter ended up here too.
So our whole family's here now, and that's nice.
We're both entrepreneurs, and we always wanted to do a startup together. So as we thought about what we wanted to do next, events became what we wanted to look at doing. We found this area from our living room on Google Earth, and we started to try to find the correct property that would be amazing to do events. I had always done events, Rick was in technology, so this really does marry together events and technology once we added in the music venue. When we found the property and started to build, it already had the big hole in the ground shaped like an amphitheater from the construction of Highway 65 in the early 1960s. And so it was a perfect spot to do events and music.
When we found the quarry, it was nothing like it is now. Of course, when vacant land is in the country for 50 years plus, people tend to use it for all kinds of things, including dumping of trash. And so when we found the place, it had 900 tons of construction debris, large mountains of rebar, culverts up to 40 feet high, for hundreds and hundreds of feet. So even before we began construction, we had to take on a pretty monumental task of cleaning all that out and recycling and reusing. And so a lot of that we were able to crush and reuse in the construction of the amphitheater and the roads and Greystone Quarry. But it took an effort, for sure, but we saw the beauty behind it, and that's one reason why we think it was no other person purchased it for the last 50 years.
It's a little interesting how we found this exact spot. We had a chart on our dining room table that was a 30-minute radius of 12 South where our son was living, and we had mapped out every event venue and what they did and what kind of place they were, and we realized pretty quickly that the growth path was south of Nashville in the Franklin-Thompson Station area, Williamson County. We realized very quickly that there were very few types of event venues at the time. There were historic homes, there was downtown Nashville, and there were barns and farms. And we really were looking for something very different. So when we found the quarry, we were both instantly all in. People thought we were crazy because of the condition of it and what it was, but I think we've done it.
Yeah, building in an amphitheater is not as easy as it sounds. Everything is built on rock, and so we had a ton of rock hammer work going on out here. But before we even started with the amphitheater, we started with Greystone Quarry. We wanted everything to look like it's been here for a long time. So we wanted everything to look like it was rooted in history. And so we chose an architect to design this that really made it look that way. All the stone came from the quarry, all the wood that you see around that we use came from a local lumber mill in Leaper's Fork. Everything we did made it look like it's been here for a long, long time, even though it's a new building with all the modern amenities you would expect. Building the amphitheater was quite a thing. We did a lot of blasting. Most of the structure of the amphitheater is there, but it took a while because it happened during COVID, and so the challenges were pretty obvious. We had steel that was stuck on a boat in the ocean, and so trying to build to a schedule when you don't know when supplies arrive can be very difficult. But things progressed pretty rapidly once the supplies arrived, and And we went through a couple of redesigns to kind of get the look just right. But early on, we realized that, you know, part of what we do and part of the effort to make things look like they've been here for so long is to really lean into the whole sustainability issue. And so if you're on site at a concert, you'll realize that, you know, there's really only compostable and recyclable waste bins. We're one of the first amphitheaters to do that right out the gate. A lot of them have 10-year plans to get there, but we said, let's just do it right away. So really minimizing anything that goes into a landfill and recycling and composting everything. And so that was huge. We also, based on the work that we did to clean up the site, the Governor Lee awarded us a award for sustainable management. And so we're pleased to see that that was recognized by the state. Because we're south of Nashville and there aren't restaurants nearby, we felt like this needed to be more of a destination. Make a night of it. And so we needed to elevate the food experience. And so we actually have a chef on site. And so we make food with food. It's different than a lot of experiences people go to where they rip open a bag and dump it into a fryer. We are very intentional about the food quality, making sure that people love it, and the reviews have been very positive. And so, from the way it looks to the food, to the recyclability, to actually the guest experience, we have people focused on what is the guest experience from the time you roll into the parking lot, all through the concert to the end of the night. What can we do to make this a memorable night? And concerts are one of those things where you're going to remember it all your life. Do you remember the time we saw, that person play at that place? And FirstBank's going to be that memory. And so everybody on the staff is tuned into making a great concert experience, and for Greystone Quarry for making events, super memorable and something they're going to talk about for the rest of their life.
When you're driving in, it looks like farmland from the front. We've done that intentionally. We do have our own eco-friendly sewer system up front. We have our own basic ecosystem and city here, but when you drive in, it looks like a farm. You can't just drop people off at the door. It's going to be a walk, and it reveals itself as you go. So you park in the field, you might see a couple deer, you might see a fox, you'll see some animals, they're here. We used to have some baby deer twins that we named Maddie and Tay that came out for every show, and people took pictures with them. We're very happy to have the wildlife here. We keep it really wild for them. They have their own spaces that they hang out. But as you're walking and it reveals itself, you get to the spot where you see the back wall lit, and we love walking up with guests and they don't know who we are, and we hear the reaction of people who've never been here before. And it's always fun to hear people just in awe of what they get when they get to the back. And then when the sun goes down and the show begins and there's hawks flying overhead and the stars are out and you see every star, and your favorite band comes on stage and the crowd gives as much as the artist, there's just nothing like a night here.
I mean, one of the things we did during construction, and even before we did construction, is we did some work on sound. People were skeptical that you could do a concert venue in a quarry. We get a lot of sideways looks, like, are you really going to do this? Is it really a good idea? So we teamed up with Myers Sound. They came out here. They put their mics all around it was just a hole at that time, all around. We got a big lull and speaker array and cranked up Eagles Live, and they were giving each other high fives.
We were all crying. It's going to work. It sounded amazing from the first time we ran the sound.
We have some of the best sounds of any venue around. And, rock sounds good, string sounds good, just vocal sound good. And it's because the walls are refractive. And if you've ever been into a studio, they do a lot to sort of shape the sound, and they put different angles on the walls. Well, that's what we have naturally here. And the end result is a sound quality that is amazing wherever you're sitting or standing in the amphitheater. So we have an interesting program where we have the artists that come through and play sign guitars, and this is with a partnership with Gibson Gibbs, and then we auction off those guitars, and then the money that's raised from that program goes into Williamson County music education to bring up the next generation of artists and musicians. And so it's kind of a nice circle of giving back to music and education.
I have a favorite concert moment. Well, there's many. There's so many. One was the day we woke up and the first thought in my head was the Jonas Brothers are playing in my yard today. And that was just crazy, but great 2 shows from them. But my favorite actual time in a concert that I can think of was Lady A in our first season. Right out of COVID, concerts had just begun. People were just starting to gather. Some people were wearing masks still. It was just a new thing to be out in a group again. They sang a song and everybody lit their phones up and people cried and hugged and swayed and sang together, and I'll never forget that moment, just from joining back in with humanity here. It was just amazing.
Yeah, that's special.
A lot of our audience is made up of people in the music industry, and they bring their kids to shows and they come to the shows to see the people they're fans of. So sometimes they hang out backstage with the artists, and sometimes they're just in the audience having a beer, and they don't tell anybody who they are unless you recognize them, which you often do.
But the experience south of Nashville and Franklin is different than Nashville. Nashville's kind of the one of the music capitals, and it's definitely a city experience. So we're focused more on a country experience. And as Nancy mentioned, everything is kind of geared to that. So from the first approach, people sometimes say, where is it? I don't see it from the road. No, you're not going to. Even having green parking lots, that's part of the experience. And all the way through to the rest of the night, everything is done intentionally to make sure that this is a very separate and country and authentically Nashville experience.
Some of those fun shows especially are the ones where the parents' first concert maybe was New Kids on the Block, and now they're back in their 30s and they're bringing their kids to their first concert, and it's New Kids on the Block. So we've had several of those where the bands have been around long enough for it to be 2 or 3 generations of first concerts. And those people come, and sometimes it's grandfather, father, and son are all here to see a rock band. And those are always really fun nights where they're making their family memories here with us. Well, when you're here for a show, you're going to see us. We're at all the shows. We're interacting with people. We're making sure that people in the VIP club are treated like a VIP, and that people in the back, just walking back without a special ticket, just a general admission, feel as welcome. And we're going to make sure that everything is perfect. You know, we live here. This is our community. This is our neighborhood. And we do care because we're here every day. And when we invite you over, we're inviting you to where we live.
Same thing's true for weddings and corporate events as well. Our heart is in it because if you do it right, you're going to make a memory that's going to stick with people for the rest of their life. For weddings, it's going to be the best day of their life. And for the guests who come, they often say, this is the best wedding we've ever had. For music, same thing. From the kids' first concert, they get a certificate. You know, this is my first concert, we take pictures. To people who've seen their lifelong hero and come hear Santana play for 2.5 hours straight without a break. It's amazing, and people take that with them, and we get to be part of making a memory. And most people don't get to do that in their jobs. And so it's a very rewarding part of what we're doing because it's not just doing a concert, it's impacting a life and making a memory. And so we enjoy that part.